going to start today's video off with a question, simple question, guys. Do you like Seahawks throwback gear? Type Y for yes or type N for no, but you're lying because everyone likes some good NFL throwback gear. I'm going to tell you more about this later on in the video. Happy Victory Monday, Seahawks fans. This is Seahawks Today by Chat Sports. I'm Meghan Payton. It's not only Victory Monday, but if you've watched our show before, you know it's Overreaction Monday. We're going to kind of hit on some of the overreactions that we've heard these last couple days or last 24 hours. But first, we are going to get into some injury updates. Brian Monet sprained his knee. We are hearing from Pete Carroll that he is expected to miss some time. Gavin Heslop, the most serious injury that occurred against the Texans, he fractured his leg. He stayed in Houston, actually, after the game to get surgery. I mean, Pete Carroll hasn't talked about it, but pretty much assumed that he is going to miss the remainder of the season. And then DJ Reed, we do not have a clear update for you guys, but he did suffer a chest contusion. Hopefully the Seahawks will be able to have him back because this DB room is getting thinner and thinner, and they cannot afford any more injuries. If you've missed it and you're wondering where some of these guys are, well, Trey Brown out for the season, as well as Marquise Blair, Jamal Adams, the big one from last week. That's why they brought in Gavin Heslop, and he did not last very long. So it's going to depend on guys like Ryan Neal, Quandre Diggs, Sidney Jones, and hopefully DJ Reed to help the Seahawks get a few more wins before the end of the season. But they're on the right track. They beat the Houston Texans 33-13. And if you missed our recap video, we'll put it in the description. But I'd say just an overall good win for Seattle. A couple mistakes. It's not perfect, and it was a Texans team. But ultimately, Russ looked good. Rashaad Penny looked fantastic. It was a good game. And you know what? I never realized, guys, since I joined Chat Sports back in August, I've been doing these Seahawks videos, and I've never stopped to ask you guys, where are you from? Where are you guys living? I don't know if all of you guys are in Seattle. So right now, our pinned comment for today's show is for you to shout out the city that you are watching this from. Go to the comments right now. Let me know where you guys are at, and I'll let you guys know if I'm ever in your city. So we are doing Overreaction Monday on Victory Monday. It's always a little bit more fun when the Seahawks win. Some of these you might think are overreactions. Some of these you might think are proper reactions. That's why we do it. You guys let us know what you're thinking in the comments. But the first one is A-plus performance by Russell Wilson. Now, we talked about it in our recap video that Russ is looking like Russ. He's looking good. He's looking better. I'm not going to give it an A-plus, though. A-plus is like perfection. Now, Russell Wilson has had some A-plus games in his career, but I'll give this one an A-minus. And that one, that might be a little high, to be honest. I think it's probably around a B to A minus, somewhere in that range, because there were a couple inaccurate passes. But overall, he was able to get the ball down the field. He was able to, get some leg work in and move around when he needed to. He was 17 out of 28 attempts, 260 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, and a QB rating of 115.2. This is the Russell Wilson that Seattle needed. This is the guy that they wanted back on their team. I hate that it took, a few weeks for him to get there, but they were kind of, forced with no other options. Yes, they could have gone with Geno Smith. I don't know how well that would have turned out. Russell Wilson got back, and I think a lot of it was less about the physical injury and also about the mental of just trying to get past that injury, having to take time off, get back out on the field. It is an adjustment. Pete Carroll is proud of his quarterback. He said in his radio interview today that Russ played like vintage Russ yesterday, and he is absolutely right about that. And speaking of vintage, we are talking throwback gear today. All right, I'm a huge fan of throwback gear. I like it better than any other NFL gear out there. So I am plugging this deal for you guys today. Chatsports.com/Seahawks gear. These are all throwback. You can get hats, you can get pullovers. They've got this really cool Tommy Bahama button up, and they are all on sale. You can get up to 33% off, and all of them, I checked, you can get it before Christmas. So this is where you want to go if you haven't done any of your holiday shopping yet, or if you just want to treat yourself and get some Seahawks gear. But it's chatsports.com/Seahawks gear. I love throwback outfits. I think they're the coolest looking NFL gear you can get. Make sure you go check this out. And if you do this, we can shout you guys out here on Seahawks Today. So here's what you got to do. You go buy anything, whether it's a hat, a mitten, a t-shirt, I don't care what it is, but use chatsports.com/Seahawks gear. Once you do it, send me a picture of your receipt. You can DM me on Twitter at Meghan Payton 7. So what you do is screenshot it on your phone. I don't care how you do it. If it's your computer, once you do it, send it to me on Twitter at Meghan Payton 7, and we'll shout you guys out on our next Seahawks video. Make sure you guys go get on this deal before it goes away. All right, our next overreaction for today is that it was a one-off game for Rashaad Penny. Now, I love how you can be reading the news and, something positive happens for a guy, and immediately an overreaction is, how can this be a negative outlook? Rashaad Penny did play well. We know that he played a fantastic career-high game. Unfortunately, people are going to criticize him and say it was a one-off game. He got lucky, but 16 carries, 137 yards, 8.6 average and 2 touchdowns. That's, if you guys are calling that luck, I mean, that's very, very lucky. And I think the reason that people are so surprised about Rashaad Penny's performance is because of the injuries that he's had. We haven't gotten to see Rashaad Penny perform like we want to, just because of what he's dealt with. And so I'd say that we can expect to see more from Rashaad Penny. I'd say we are probably going to. He just needs to stay healthy. That is the biggest thing that we need from Penny, because if he's a healthy guy, maybe we can see more performances like this. He just hasn't been able to deal with these injuries. And so I don't know. I mean, I've heard Russell Wilson has a pretty good off-season treatment program. I've heard he spends like over $1 million on rehabilitation, making sure he stays healthy. Now, of course, he did have his finger injury this year, but maybe Rashaad Penny needs to invest in that a little bit, because he has only played 33 out of 61 possible career games. So it doesn't matter how good of a performance you can have out on the field. If you are going to keep getting injured, it's pretty much impossible for your stats and your numbers to really go up, or for you to really change the outcome of a season for a team just because of your lack of time on the field. I do think that Rashaad Penny will find a way to stay a little bit healthier, and I don't think that this was a one-off game for him. I think that we can expect to see more out of him, and I'm glad that we saw something like this from Rashaad Penny. It was about time. So moving on to our next overreaction, we've got straight up playoffs, and I know that it's easy and kind of fun to throw this one out there. Unfortunately, the Seahawks playoff chances are a little bit slim still, so don't get too excited. It was a good Texans win, a good winning streak for Seattle. I think they, again, needed this for their confidence, just the way that they are going to keep this team, having some momentum as they end this season. So whether they do make the playoffs or not, I think that, overall, just getting some more wins is helpful. I do think that they do have a slight percentage of making it. I don't know if it's very realistic. If you did miss our, kind of path to the playoffs, we shot that video right before last week's game. So we'll plug that in the comments below if you missed out on that. And also, this is another reason why you guys should join the family here at Chat Sports, because we will keep you updated on Seahawks content all season long. And by the way, after the season, we're going to talk draft. We're going to talk trades. We are talking postseason. Go right now to youtube.com/Seahawks TV. Press the big red button. Join the family here at Seahawks Today. Now, while we stay on the gears of playoffs, we look at where Seattle lands. Well, we have our first NFC elimination. Detroit Lions came a little bit later than I think we were expecting, but they are officially eliminated. Seahawks now tied with the Panthers at 5-8, so they're slowly moving up. They are now no longer in the same place as the Giants and the Bears, so we're off to a good start. They're really not that far off. The biggest problem is that they've got to win the head-to-head record if they have a tie with just one team. And unfortunately, the Seahawks head-to-head record is not good. So that's tiebreaker number one. So let me just explain this to you if you're not aware of the rules. If they are tied with just one other team record-wise, it then goes to head-to-head. Now, if there are multiple teams in that tie and there's one non-head-to-head, head-to-head does not apply. So then you look onto conference record. Conference record also would be what you would use if they hadn't played each other in the season. And so the Seahawks conference record and head-to-head record is not fantastic. A good win against the Texans, but that doesn't help with their conference record. This is the NFC record by just the conference wins. So right now the Rams 5-3 conference wins. Washington 5-3, Niners 5-5, Vikings 4-4. We've got Eagles at 4-4. Keep going. Saints at 4-5, Falcons at 3-6, Panthers at 3-6, and unfortunately, dead last are the Seahawks at 2-6. So as we talk about their path and their road to the playoffs, unfortunately, they weren't able to get enough conference wins. That kind of, hurts them. It really does. So good thing is they're playing all NFC teams these last 4 weeks. So they can kind of boost up that record. They've got to beat the Rams this week. We are going to be talking about that game later on in this week. I think that they can do it. The Bears game, they should be able to win. Lions, I would hope so. And then they end Week 18 at the Cardinals. We said this before. Hopefully they'll be benching their starters. I don't think it's crazy for Seattle to win out, but they're also going to need help. So yes, they can control that aspect, but unfortunately, just with how the season has gone, it doesn't determine them 100% making the playoffs. They can win out and still not make it. So we need some help from some other teams, but ultimately the thing that is in their control is winning games. So we're going to just take a little pause and ask you guys, will the Seahawks make the playoffs? Type P for playoffs or type O for out if you think it is not Seattle's year. Our last overreaction for today's video is that Tyler Lockett is better than DK Metcalf. The great debate that you guys love to have, Seahawks fans always want to talk about, and I get it, but I think this is a positive because they're both different, but they're both great. I mean, they are the best duo, I'd say, in the NFL. You look at other teams around the league, they don't have a number two that's even questionably as good as your number one. So you look at Tyler Lockett and you look at DK Metcalf. I'd say they are both fantastic receivers. I think Lockett is a little bit more underappreciated, but you see, I mean, they're pretty close. Right now, Lockett's been targeted 93 times in 2021, DK 22. They're right there. Receptions, Lockett's had 62. DK's had 56. Now, you can kind of go through these yourself, but you can see that Lockett has had less touchdowns, but has had more yards, whereas DK has had less yards, but more touchdowns. They're used differently. Now, Tyler Lockett, as I just said, he's just not as appreciated as much. I think DK gets a little bit more of the spotlight, kind of more in the news often, a little bit more maybe drama with DK, so we hear about him more often. But Tyler Lockett reached a new milestone. He has officially tied, I believe they've officially tied Steve Largent for the most yards in a 3-season streak, over 1,000 yards. So congratulations to Tyler Lockett. And he's feeling pretty good after the game. He said, "These 2 games have given us the confidence and boost that we need to continue to do what needs to be done to finish out this season right." And I like how he says that. Finish out this season right. That doesn't necessarily mean finish and get into the playoffs, but finish this season with more confidence, feeling a little bit better. But let's end the debate all for one. Right now, I'll ask you guys, who is the better wide receiver? Is it Tyler Lockett? If so, go to the comments right now, type L for Lockett, or if you're sticking with the classic number one, go to the comments and type M for DK Metcalf.